again, and welcome to The Luxury of Choice, a B2B sales and business podcast brought to you by the training team of George James Limited. My name is Steve Vaughan. I'm a member of the training team here, and I'm also the host and producer of this podcast. And today I have two colleagues with me and also a special guest. But first of all, let me introduce my two colleagues who are here today. Christian Walter, who's in a car park at Birmingham Airport. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Great. No problem.
Great to have you here.
Birmingham.
Hopefully, we won't keep you too late for the flight. And Jonathan Slasinski, who's in his home in California right now, I think. How are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing well, Steve. Great to have Kate with us.
Great. Well, let's speak to the most important person here today. That's our special guest. So we're delighted to have actually a real life working member of the sales team right now, and that's Kate Sanders. Kate, hi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks ever so much for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on. We're delighted to have you here. Yeah.
So I've been in the life science sales industry for nearly 30 years, so a very long time.
I find that hard to believe.
I was 21 when I started.
Okay.
So basically, sort of sold everything from consumables, benchtop devices, liquid handling, automation. Then my latest, the company I work for now, being Biosero, is essentially sort of end-to-end workflows, orchestration software, that kind of thing. So
okay, and what's your role there now, currently?
So I'm in the sales management side. So but just have a territory, and so I look after sort of accounts in UK, Ireland, and Scandinavia, as well as having a couple of global accounts as well. So
okay, it sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's keeping me busy.
Plenty of travel, yeah.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we all know about travel as well. We've all been doing a bit of traveling as well. So I know you've been on George James training courses in the past, so you know a colleague, Jonathan Cooper, very well from previous courses. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on the pod. We're delighted to have you here, and I'm sure you better give some sort of real life insight from like the sort of front of the coalface right now, because you're actually working in the business right now. Yeah, well, we talk about it still. So what's our topic today then? So we do a lot of stuff on this podcast about preparation. We do also a lot, of course, about what actually takes place in a great sales call. What we thought we'd look at today is a little bit different, and that is what happens when we come out of the call. So we've had a meeting with a customer. We come out of the call. We're probably sitting in our car. What do great salespeople do when they come out of a call, a great sales call? So who would like to pick that one up first? Anybody? Or I can pick on somebody. Anybody want to volunteer though?
I'll take it on.
Go for it, Jonathan.
And I will say, great was the transition of, a rep in my 20s versus a rep in my 30s and 40s, right?
Sure.
To me, when I was a young rep, great was, did I get them the quote? Did I email them the information they requested? And did I get that to them as timely as possible? Like, if I told them, hey, I'm going to get you the quote by the end of the day, I'm in the coffee shop getting the quote done. And then all of a sudden I was, as you get a little bit, kind of more tenured under, you're like, wait, it's not just about that. It's literally about the call. It's about the qualification. It's about the next steps. And it's more about reflection. And I will say, as my career come on, it was more about, hey, what was good about that? What was bad about that? What could I have done better? And if something was really good, I used to love sharing it with my team. If something was really bad, I'd call one of my team members just to vent about how horrible, the call went, or probably blame the customer. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's just more about the day-to-day getting the admin done at first versus more of this reflection of the holistic way of the call and how it went.
Okay, so I think there's a few things to unpack there, which we'll do as we go along. But Kate, what do you do when you come out of a sales call? What's the first thing you do?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think a key thing is also the prep beforehand, so that then you can actually align then what it was you wanted to get out of the meeting, and then also, the summary of the call and so forth. But during the actual call, I think if we kind of step back a tiny bit and actually think that as you're getting towards the end, and it's all about that conclusion and kind of next steps and things like that you can actually put into that and put into the process anyway. And then when it comes to straight after, you're then following up with sort of, you've already touched on what the next steps potentially are.
Well, hopefully, yes.
Yeah. And then, follow up with that email, follow up with, the action points from their perspective, from our perspective, finding out internally who, ultimately you need to get on board from.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Different
yeah.
jobs and so forth. So it's acting on it immediately as well.
Yeah. While it's still hot in the memory. What about you, Christian? You've been on calls today, actually. So what did you do when you came out of your calls today?
So, a wise man once said you can only learn by the people you meet, by the books you read, and by the habits you form. And I think it's kind of true. And if we form a habit of analyzing each sales call immediately afterwards, by maybe sitting in the car and reflecting back on the call, what went well, how did I do there? Did I find out what I needed to find out? If we make this a habit, we can continuously become a little bit better. And I think that's in a way necessary because the targets always get a little bit higher.
Funny that, yeah.
Unless we get a little bit better, we will not hit the target that is becoming higher. So self-reflection, how it went, what did I miss, what did I catch, what else do I need to find out,
right,
to make this call or this sale a little bit more likely.
Okay.
And if we do that habitually after every call, I think we can really move it forward.
Thank you all for that. I think self-reflection came out of all of your input there. And I just want to explore that a bit more, because sometimes we can be quite euphoric when we come out of the call, particularly if we think we've won the sale. We can be really, get in the car, feeling really great about ourselves. And sometimes we can get out of the call and you think, oh no, that was a bit of a disaster. And we've all been there, let's be honest. So how can we make that self-reflection fair, analytical, if you like, really, without getting too high or too low? Is there a way that we could think about how do we make sure we're really honest with ourselves, in terms of what went well and what could have gone better? Any ideas? Apparently not.
You could use No, there are. Sometimes I need to think. I'm getting older. I'm becoming slower.
I think because you are forming a habit. So essentially, I just do it automatically without even thinking. So
yeah, that's the experience, Kate. Yeah.
So it's always about what went well, what didn't go well, and just being factual and true to yourself. That actually you haven't come out thinking that you've got the order until you actually get the order. And it's like you've always got to have that in your mind, because you just never know. What can happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love how Kate's unconscious competence with this skill level, right? So she's just boom, doing it. But I think it's not rocket science. What went well? What can we improve upon, right? And I don't think you need to go that much deeper or that much into the weeds of a conversation. And that's kind of where my career as a sales rep progressed. What did I do well? Cool. Keep doing that. What could I have done better? All right, next call or next time I interact with this customer, I got to make sure I take care of that.
Yeah.
But I will say that took a while for me to get to. It was normally just checking the boxes of, those little next steps and not even thinking about the call itself. So I love that Kate's already there automatically. So great.
Yes. I think it's having Jonathan Cooper in my head quite a lot of the time.
What a scary thought that is.
Yes, indeed. Hey, but be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself with the self-reflection, because I think habitually we focus on the negative as people.
That's right.
Is even an evolutionary reason for it, because if we focus on the negative, we're safe. We can be safe from wild animals and enemy tribes and what have you. So that's why we tend to focus on the negative. But that's not helpful, because as sales guys, we need to be positive. So we should, for every negative we write down, we should write down 3 positive.
So I love that.
I think it's really important to do that, and to also give yourself a pat on the shoulder if something went really, really well, because that makes you that more successful and more positive and more passionate in the next sales call.
That's a super point.
I think it's a fantastic point, because I'm just thinking back to, again, the evolution of a sales rep. When I first started doing reflection, it was always, what did I do wrong, right? And having this pit in your stomach when you'd walk out of a meeting saying, I didn't do this. And oh, I really didn't connect on this level. And then of course you're chatting with your colleagues and you're just talking about everything that was bad. And I think it was Patrick, my manager at the time. He's like, focus on something you did good. He's like, he goes, you keep calling me with everything you did bad. He goes, focus on something you did good. And that kind of switched it. And I love, Christian, your little ratio, like 3-to-1.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the positives because that's really going to start that vibe and just getting that kind of positivity going in your head.
Yeah. And I think that applies whether the call was an absolute success or an absolute disaster. I think the thing still applies. What 3 things went well? What 1 thing could I have done better? Yeah. I guess that's what you do. As Jonathan said, Kate, you do that sort of unconsciously, really, through your experience, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's true for calls. Even if you walk out of the call having just received the purchase order, even then you should think about what could I have done better, what went really well. Of course, that's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
And then, God forbid, if we lose a sale and the customer is courageous enough to tell us in a sales call, I think, then of course we walk out with a frustrated feeling, and that's perfectly natural. But even then, we should think about, okay, so that happened, bad luck.
Sure.
What were the reasons for it to happen, perhaps? And what did I do well, and what could I have done better? The questions remain the same.
Yeah, and I
Super
think
points.
if you move on then to the next opportunity you have, you can then embrace it with new ideas as well.
Absolutely. I remember saying when I first took over, I think it was back in 2003 now, when I took over as sales manager for Shimadzu in the UK, and one of the first things I said to the team there was they didn't lose enough orders, and they all thought I was bonkers. But what I meant was they weren't competing enough, for other people's jobs, really, other people's projects, should I say, or other manufacturers' projects even, because we learn from losing orders, don't we? We learn from as much as we do from winning sales. What about when we get back in the car and we sit down and we do our reflection and our 3-to-1, and then we go, oh, naughty word there, flip. I didn't ask that question. I meant to ask that question. I didn't ask it. How do we handle that? What do we do? What did you do? Because I'm sure we've all done that.
I would either get straight on the phone and just sort of ask for clarification, because while it's hot topic for me, it's hot topic for them. So, as soon as possible, get that information. If you can't get them on the phone, follow up with the email and, be very direct and need to just have this information to be able to move forward.
And I guess be honest to say, hey, I meant to ask this. We all got so carried away. We forgot to ask that. Is that what you would have done, Jonathan?
Exactly. I was just thinking, it's just, hey, I'd follow up an email, or, there's even times I'd walk back to the lab. Hey, I totally missed asking you about this. This is really important. And I think the sooner you can do it, and again, just because otherwise it just eats at you. Oh man, I forgot this. I forgot this. I forgot this. So try to, as Kate was saying, try to get that clarification as soon as possible. But then the other thing is, all right, don't do it the next time you're on a call, right? So this is where the learning comes in, and this is where we have to, try to grow. When we realize we didn't do something ideally, next call, let's be better.
What would you do, Christian?
Yeah, I think I would follow up, depending on the customer, immediately by phone. Yeah, fine. Sometimes maybe if they're really busy, probably by email. I think both are acceptable. It's a bit more tricky when it's a tricky topic. People forget to ask about competition sometimes. I've done that, and that's maybe something. There, I would use the phone rather than email, because people don't tell you straight away. You have to ask maybe in a roundabout sort of a way.
Yeah.
Or if you don't know the budget, it's also not something I would maybe ask by email.
No,
because
agreed.
That's, again, a little bit a sensitive topic. And maybe I would also, hopefully you have a next call scheduled. I mean, we should never walk out of a customer meeting without having the next call in our diary.
Ideally.
And so you can also, when you prepare for that next call, make sure you talk about these 2 questions right at the beginning, perhaps.
And I think you bring up a really important point, actually, which is, and I agree, we should always agree a next step while we're in them with the customer, what happens next. But what about when there's things that we need to do and there's things that they need to do for that next step? How do we make sure those things happen?
Well, I think that would happen you'd summarize everything in any case, and make it clear in terms of what their action points are and what my action points would be. And then following up, it is literally sort of defining everything very clear and just confirming it again. And I actually find, if you're following up with all the necessary information to be as concise as possible, there's actually, there's this software around where you can actually see if they look at stuff straight away as well. So you can see their intent, and you can really tell, if somebody doesn't bother looking at this information that you've sent, it might not be as top priority as what maybe
you thought it. I've never come across that before.
Yeah, it's extremely useful. And if they are literally downloading, sharing, you don't know who they're sharing to and stuff, but at the end of the day, if you can then, you can just tell if they're busy on this platform, then that you've hit the spot right.
Are you guys familiar with that kind of software? Come across that?
Oh, yeah. Checks the box if they open up the email, did they read the email, did they click on something? And then I also love seeing the ones where they forwarded it to somebody, because that to me that's the real signal that something's going on.
Absolutely.
But I'll take us back to even kind of Kate's start, consumables, right? So when I was selling consumables, a lot of the times the next step was we're going to get them a sample and they're going to try it, right? They're going to run it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, cool. I've got my next steps. Call went well. Positive that they want to try this. And then you go back to the lab. No, we haven't tried it yet. Then you go back to the lab. No, we haven't tried it yet, right? No, we haven't tried it yet. So I think those are kind of like the things that reps really need to kind of, especially from a consumable side, if they're still, so to me, it was always just a follow-up, right? I was 3-4 days a week, I was in my account. So the follow-up was never the issue. It was, what's the actual plan to get them to run this? And there were times when I would actually go in and pipette out an assay with them, just so that they can kind of see the way the assay would run, or the gel would run, or the reverse transcriptase we were selling would work. It's, that's the key to this kind of follow-up, which happens after the call,
Yeah, good point. Christian, your thoughts on this one?
So I think it's a good habit to send minutes. And I think it is extremely professional, comes across very professional.
Agreed.
I would even attempt to use AI tools for these minutes. There are gadgets available that help you write minutes, and of course you need to ask permission if you're allowed to use such a tool. But I believe
so these are devices that listen to the conversation and praise the conversation and summarize it.
Yeah. And the quality of those minutes is amazing. I'm actually quite impressed, and it makes the customer remember stuff as well. I think, any meeting we do should have minutes. It's a problem of most companies that they have too many meetings without minutes, without actions. And the same is true for our customers. And if we can do it better, then that's already, we stand out already.
I guess you would obviously, as you say, have to confirm that the customer's happy for you to be using a recording.
Yeah, otherwise you just take notes, but you still do minutes, I think.
Yes, of course, yeah.
I love the whole idea of the minutes. And I will say, as these tools become more ubiquitous, I was just with a company who had a note-taking tool, and then it summarized the notes and automatically put them in Salesforce automatically put in the CRM. So the call was logged with the notes. And the cool thing is, it would say there are no next steps were identified, or these were your next steps. It's kind of cool. But Christian, I love the minutes. I would kind of send like a little recap, but I do kind of like being very specific with kind of what was covered.
Is this something your company's explored at all, Kate, these kind of AI tough?
Yeah. No, definitely. In particular for, basically just writing transcripts on a call, and then utilizing that, putting it straight into the platform, and then it can summarize everything. And as you said, Jonathan, next steps and so forth. But I also think, trust, you need to gain that trust from the customer straight away. And if you are showing that you know exactly what they're looking for, what their pain points are, what their objectives are in this first email, first summary, then, you're on that path for success.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Because it just shows that you've listened to them, that you're interested in them, you've understood them, or if you haven't understood them, there's a chance there to actually clarify, I suppose, a key point there, really. But it just shows that you're not just turning up a pitching product like so many salespeople do, really. You've actually took an interest in their world and what they're doing. All right, so let's talk about everybody's favorite topic. And Jonathan, you hinted on it there, CRM. So What do great salespeople do when they come out of the call with regards to their CRM, guys? And I know it's your favorite topic, Christian. So.
Fill it in straight away. Just get it filled in.
But do people really do that? Let's be honest.
Look, I have different roles in my life. I'm a sales rep myself for George James.
Aren't we all? Yeah.
With extremely good CRM discipline, as you all know. But then I'm also a sales manager for one of my clients, an acting sales manager for one of my clients. And I really appreciate if there is a short summary of a customer meeting in the CRM, because when I go through the opportunities, I can understand where we stand. And if I only see the emails in the run-up to the meeting and not what was discussed in the meeting, I'm actually missing crucial information.
It's so important.
I know every sales rep hates doing it. I'm the same. So I can really empathize. And that's why I'm also using these tools, because these tools make my life easier. Yeah. And you know, even if the notes aren't perfect, there's something, and something is a lot better than nothing.
I always think, you know, when someone, it's almost like you've got to put in stuff so that essentially someone else can read it. And I've been, you know, and I was sales manager as well, and kind of having that issue of people not filling it in, then I don't understand what's gone on. I have to then make a phone call to find out exactly what it is. Or you have a new person start and the CRM hasn't been filled in properly. So then it's almost like starting at the beginning again.
Absolutely.
And that can take so much time as well. So, you know, it's kind of always thinking, what would other people want you to do? And that's the way that I always kind of frame it, really.
Super point. Is that what you did, Jonathan? I'm sure it was.
I wish. I was really good with getting everything into the CRM, and you know, it's the only way. It's for you to manage your business, for your boss to manage you. But I will say, I didn't do it after every call. It was usually at the end of the day, or maybe even the next morning. You know, where I'd have my notes, and I would, you know, to me, if I had a call, the last thing I wanted to do was stop, create an opportunity, put in notes, do all this stuff. I wanted to go to a next call. And I think that was just my personality and how I took on sales was CRM at the end of the day, which tended to get pushed to the next morning, which sometimes tended to get pushed to Friday when I was in the office. So I'm not going to lie here. But I will say when I was the, you know, head of global enablement at 10x Genomics, we put in mobile, Salesforce mobile, where, hey, 3 clicks, you can start things. And, you know, you've got all of these kind of tools that we were starting. And I will say, it didn't help with CRM cleanliness or getting that hygiene. Reps are reps. I mean, I just think reps are reps, right? I think you're so focused, or at least in my experience, you're focused on the calls that day. You know, what the habit to me I wanted to grow was at the end of the day, make sure everything's logged, right? Like if by the end of the day, everything was logged, I was stoked. But, you know, right after the call, don't worry, I think there's a lot of goodness about right after the call, everything's so fresh in your mind. It just wasn't my style.
No, I think that's a fair point.
I think you're right, Jonathan. Reps are reps, you know, and they end up in sales not because they are perfect administrators, but perhaps they end up in sales because they have other qualities. However,
I agree, but however,
I'm not finished. I think for all the reasons you guys mentioned, for transferability to a new person, for transparency to the sales manager, for information about forecasting and all that sort of stuff, it is important that we have the essence of the call in the CRM.
It's crucial. I was
Without
with
a doubt.
A company I was training this week, and they were all there was 20 of them, and to a person, they were all complaining about the CRM. They hate the CRM. And I've never met a salesperson that loves the CRM platform, no matter what one they use. And there are loads of them out there. There's always something that's terrible about it. But that's not a reason for not doing it, really. And as you've all said, really, you know, we could be on vacation, we could be ill, hopefully not, but we could be. And somebody else has to pick up the opportunity. The customer rings in and says, oh, I'm waiting for somebody to do something for me or get back to me. And if we haven't got some kind of record, then how's that person supposed to cope with that inquiry or that call? You know, because you're literally working in the dark. And then from the customer's perspective, he feels like he's dealing with a different company or she's dealing with a different company. So it is that important, really. I know sales managers bang on about it, and I was no different, by the way.
Well, I will say, Lace, I think what you and Christian bring up is like, it's about getting the basics in there, right? If somebody were to look at this opportunity, can they grab a picture of it? So, what I instituted with Salesforce was, our qualification tool at the time was Band C. So there was a whole Band C that they had to fill in. And if you had your next steps and your Band C filled in, so if a boss comes in and looks at an opportunity and maybe only 3 things are filled in, okay, now they know it's not fully qualified, but what was the next step? Those are the 2 big things I think that, from a CRM cleanliness, then you could put the notes in and all that kind of good stuff. But it's about making sure that the basics are in there.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So we've got about 5 minutes left of the pod. What other things do great salespeople do when they leave the call? Is there anything we've missed at all?
So I think Jonathan was going on about it earlier. After the call, it's also maybe good practice to talk to somebody about it, particularly if it's a very important customer meeting, something that means a lot for your next project or for a particularly big project, even if you can talk to your boss. And Steve, I remember years ago when you had a sales team at Mettler Toledo, a few ladies, they spoke to you regularly when they were driving home. That was their daily ritual to download their day to their boss. And I think it helps.
Yeah. I wouldn't encourage people to do that when they're driving along these days, folks, to do pull over and do it safely. But it's a great point. Is that something you used to do, Kate, or you still do?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, everything from frustration to a difficult customer to a rejoicing a particular moment or something. That really encouraged it. So
we can be super euphoric, and sometimes we perhaps just need to be let down a peg or two, or we can be super down about what the call is, and perhaps somebody needs to say, actually, you know what, it wasn't that bad from what I hear, and having that somebody you can call, whether it's your boss or a colleague, that you can just talk through what's went on.
I love it, Kate, when you said rejoicing, sales
love that word.
Trip can be a lonely job. You're out on the road on your own. And so actually this touch base, rejoicing together when something went really well or complaining bitterly when something didn't, I think it's good for mental health as well. And I would
that's a good point.
I would think that's important. We need to be resilient.
Yeah, I think you both summed it up really well. I mean, to me, those were some of the best calls that I would always have would be with my colleague. Every sales team I was on, the camaraderie and the culture that builds when you do have this kind of free flow of sharing emotions and sharing feelings. Again, we all have this shared, interest as a sales rep, but it's like, okay, oh, you had a frustration too. Oh, you had a failure too. Just so that as you just said, you're not alone.
Yeah.
My sales colleagues are still some of my best friends. They're at my weddings. They're people I text. There's people I call and talk to all the time. Like, I do see those sales teams where they don't do this. And I'm just like, ooh, to me, that's just so strange to the way that I've operated. But I love it. I think that's one of the most important things to do, share. Positives and negatives as well.
Is that what you do as a team, Kate? You talk to each other regularly?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really important.
Great stuff. Well, guys, I guess we'll wrap it up there then, really. So thank you all for your thoughts on what great salespeople do when they come out of a call. So, dear listener, if you listen to this on your way to a customer, on the way out, try and do some of the things that we've suggested here today. And who knows, it might just be something that might be habit forming or game changing for you moving forward. Kate, thank you ever so much for coming on the pod.
Thanks,
Please
Kate.
come back again.
Thank you very much.
Get your insight. Thank you, Christian and Jonathan as well. If you have enjoyed this episode, dear listener, then make sure if you use Apple or Spotify that you give us ideally a 5-star review. We'd love that. It does help us in lots of weird and wonderful ways. If you would like to come on the podcast or you have a suggestion of a topic, you can contact me or any members of the George James training team through our socials, through the LinkedIn page, or if you know us directly, just give us a call, drop us an email. We would love to hear from you. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks' time with another show. In the meantime, happy selling, and we'll talk to you soon.